Ms. Gigaba, there's a heading, tensions rising. You see that?
Yes.
Now, whilst Mr. Gigaba was the Minister of the DPE, was there a time when you felt that the Guptas were putting pressure on him, or that he mentioned that to you?
He mentioned that to me.
And what did he say?
There were times where Malusi will have his own diary from his department, and then while he's sitting at home, maybe he will say, AJ is calling him, he needs to go, or he will have to leave the department. So he will come at home, he was like, no, let's go to Sexton, they want to see me. But it came to a time where he didn't want to do it. He says they put pressure on him because he has his own diary that he runs it with his PA. So now when they do these random calls, so now he needs to cancel certain meetings, and then he had to rush to Sexton. So he was not happy with that. And also remember, he was really not happy with when there were a lot of arguments and pressure on Monwabisi Gigaba to leave SAA, because Malusi thought he was good as a CEO. And also, I remember that he liked Mr. Dames at Ascom. He said he was a good guy, he was working. So, but the Guptas didn't like them. So there were a lot of discussion about them. So sometimes he will not take their calls when they're calling. And I was like, no, why are you not taking their calls? He was like, they always put pressure on me. They want me to run my work the way they want. And now I want to run the department the way I want.
So was there a time where you discussed this with Mr. Gigaba? The pressure that you say was being put on him?
Yeah, a lot of times, because it will, most of the calls, they will make him feel so uncomfortable. It's either when maybe he talks to Dumieni, maybe they're discussing SAA, and then after that he will talk to me because he was not okay, because I think it was more of he wanted me to give him support. And also, there are certain people that he really enjoyed to work with them. And then he felt Guptas, they also want to change things around, and he was comfortable with those people.
So was there ever a time in that context that you suggested to Mr. Gigaba that he might stop using these advisors?
Can you please repeat that?
Did you say in the middle of paragraph 32, when I asked Mr. Gigaba why he did not stop using the Guptas as his advisor, what did he tell you then?
Oh, I asked him that because I felt like, because these people are stressing you, so why don't you just cut communication with them? So he said he can't.
And what did he say in response?
I don't remember.
You don't remember? Okay.
Was there a time, have a look at paragraph 33, when the relationship between Mr. Gigaba and the Guptas appeared to be strained?
Yes.
And when was that? Can you remember?
Firstly, I noticed every time when they will talk about Dames, Malusi didn't like those. And also, I remember when they were talking about Monwabisi Gigaba, he really didn't like Monwabisi to be removed. And I remember at the time it was more when they talk about, because his calls into Dumieni, in the beginning they used to be very friendly. And later, when he was at DPE, they used to argue a lot about the board and the decisions of the board, and also how SAA is operating. So Malusi was very uncomfortable how, I think he felt like Dudu was just in everything. He wanted to be hands-on where he's not supposed to be hands-on. So it was more of that most of the time.
Now, did Mr. Gigaba often receive calls from Mr. AJ Gupta?
Yeah, sometimes AJ will call him. Sometimes he will take the call, sometimes he won't take his calls.
And why? What would cause him not to take the calls?
I think it was in the later stage where he will avoid his calls because he knew that he will tell him something that is going to upset him, or he will tell him something about a certain individual that need to be moved. Because every time when there's someone AJ wants him to be appointed, he would just put pressure on him, and Malusi would hate that. So, and at some point, sometimes he will, then he will ignore his calls.
And what would happen if he ignored the Gupta's calls?
I only remember one instance where AJ said, Malusi must remember why he was appointed as a minister of DBE.
What did Ms. AJ Gupta say?
He said he needed to remember why he was appointed as a minister of DBE.
As a Minister of Public Enterprises. Did you say this in your presence, or did you hear from Mr. Gigaba that is what?
Malusi told me.
He told you?
Yes, but I was there when he was talking to him on the phone, but also he told me.
Oh, okay. Mr. Mike?
Yes, thank you. I just want to take you through paragraph 33 and tell me if there's parts of it that are wrong. It says, during early 2014, Mr. Gigaba's relationship with the Guptas began to appear strained. The Guptas wanted Mr. Gigaba to get rid of Mr. Damas as the Chief Executive Officer of Eskom because Mr. Damas was not doing what the Guptas wanted him to do for them at Eskom. However, Mr. Gigaba did not agree with the Guptas' instruction. Mr. Gigaba then started avoiding telephone calls from the Guptas. When Mr. Gigaba ignored the phone calls, the Guptas would send Mr. Masami to speak to him, and Mr. Gigaba would then agree to meet with them. Mr. AJ Gupta would regularly call Mr. Gigaba and demand that he attend the Gupta residence to meet certain people. This upset Mr. Gigaba because he would have to cancel his planned official appointments in order to do so. Mr. Gigaba also told me that AJ Gupta told him that if he wanted to run the DPE as he wished, he would be moved back to the Department of Home Affairs. I understand that Mr. AJ Gupta would often tell Mr. Gigaba that he should remember why he was appointed at the DPE.
Yes.
Is that correct, or is there something wrong with this paragraph? Is there anything wrong with it?
There's nothing wrong.